My son threw water in my face because I asked for more respect. I stood there in our kitchen, water dripping from my chin onto my worn janitor's uniform. 15 years of sacrifice. 15 years of sleepless nights, unpaid bills, and putting his needs before mine. And this is what I got. But I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just quietly reached for a dish towel, wiped my face clean, and smiled. Not because I was happy, but because something had just clicked into place. You see, when water hits you that hard, that unexpectedly, it does something interesting. It forces you to really see what's in front of you. And what I saw in that moment, in my son's reflection behind me as he thought I wasn't looking, changed everything I thought I knew about the last 15 years of my life. What I discovered that night would destroy everything he'd built on lies. Let me take you back to where this all started. June 15th, 2009. Jake was 11 years old when the accident happened. Car ran a red light, T-boned us at the intersection of Mill Avenue and Broadway here in Phoenix. I walked away with bruises. Jake didn't. The doctors said permanent spinal damage, partial paralysis. He'd need full-time care, maybe for life. The settlement from the other driver's insurance was substantial, $340,000. I became Jake's legal guardian over those funds, responsible for managing every penny of his care. I made a choice that day. I quit my construction job, 22 years of steady work, gone. The physical demands didn't mesh with Jake's new reality, so I became a night janitor at Valley Corporate Plaza downtown, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week, $467 after taxes every week. The schedule was perfect because I could sleep during the day, while Jake was at his special education classes, then be home for his afternoon therapy sessions. We had to downsize everything. Sold our 3-bedroom house in Tempe for $89,000, barely broke even after the mortgage. Moved into a ground floor apartment on Camelback Road. Rent was $850 a month, but it was wheelchair accessible. No steps, wide doorways, grab bars in the bathroom. The equipment costs were staggering. His custom wheelchair ran $4,500. Insurance covered 60%. The physical therapy table for home exercises, another $2,800. The hospital bed with adjustable controls, $3,200. Every month brought new expenses. Specialized cushions to prevent bed sores, $800. Bathroom safety equipment, $1,200. A shower chair that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. My daily routine became clockwork. 6 a.m. helped Jake with his morning routine transfer from bed to wheelchair, assistance with showering, getting dressed. 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'd try to sleep, though the Arizona heat made our apartment feel like an oven most days. 5 p.m. dinner preparation. Jake needed organic everything. His digestive system was sensitive after the trauma. Our weekly grocery bill averaged $200. Whole Foods, never Walmart. Organic chicken breast at $12 a pound. Gluten-free pasta at $6 a box. 5:30 p.m. physical therapy assistance. Jake's therapist, Maria, charged $120 per session 3 times a week. She'd show me the exercises to continue between visits. Leg stretches, resistance training, range of motion work. Jake would grunt and complain about every movement. "Dad, you're doing it wrong," became his favorite phrase. "Maria doesn't push that hard." Or, "You need to be more gentle with my left side." 11 p.m., I'd drive my 2003 Honda Civic, 230,000 miles on it downtown to Valley Corporate Plaza, 6 floors of office buildings. Vacuum every carpet, empty every trash can, clean every bathroom. The night security guard, Carlos, would nod when I arrived. We rarely spoke. What was there to say? 6 a.m., drive home, help Jake with breakfast, then crash until afternoon. No vacations, no dating, no life outside that apartment and that office building. The settlement money was supposed to last. I was careful with every withdrawal. Physical therapy, $12,000 per year. Medical equipment, $8,000 annually. Specialized food and supplements, another $6,000. I kept detailed spreadsheets. Every expense documented, every receipt filed. But Jake's needs seemed to grow every year. In 2019, he insisted he needed a new gaming setup for cognitive therapy, $3,000 for a PlayStation 5, a 43-inch Samsung TV, and a gaming chair that cost more than my monthly salary. His neurologist supposedly recommended it for hand-eye coordination. Last year, it was designer clothes. I feel better about myself when I look good, Dad. It's psychological. $500 shoes, $200 shirts. A watch that cost $800 because it had health monitoring features. 3 months ago, Jake announced he needed his own apartment. I'm 26, Dad. I need independence. The deposit alone was $8,000. First month's rent, last month's rent, plus a pet deposit for the emotional support dog he'd decided he needed. A golden retriever puppy that cost $2,500 from a specialty breeder. I was tired. 15 years of 4-hour sleep nights. 15 years of saying no to everything for myself and yes to everything for him. My back ached constantly from the janitor work. My hands were permanently stained from industrial cleaning chemicals. I hadn't been to a doctor myself in 3 years, couldn't afford the copays, but I kept telling myself it was worth it. This was my son. This was love. This was what fathers do. Until last Tuesday night, when I made a simple request. I'd just gotten home from work, 6:15 a.m. Jake was already awake, playing his PlayStation. I'd brought him coffee from the 7-Eleven French vanilla, extra sugar the way he liked it. Cost me $3.47. Jake, I said, sitting down heavily on our second-hand couch, I've been thinking, maybe you could just say thank you once in a while? Maybe acknowledge that this is hard for both of us? He paused his game, turned to look at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Cold, almost disgusted. You think this is hard? He said. Try being stuck in this chair for 15 years. Try watching your friends go to college, get jobs, get married, while you're trapped in this body. That's when everything started to unravel. The conversation that Tuesday morning should have been a wake-up call. But I was still making excuses for him, still telling myself that his anger came from pain, not entitlement. Wednesday evening, I was getting ready for work when my phone rang. Jake's number. Dad, I need you to stop by the store on your way home tomorrow morning. Sure, what do you need? Red Bull, the sugar-free kind, and not the generic stuff from Circle K. I need the real thing. My energy levels have been terrible lately. Red Bull was $4.99 for a 4-pack. Generic energy drinks were 99 cents each. But I'd learned not to argue about these things. Okay, Red Bull, anything else? Yeah, and can you pick up more of those protein bars? The chocolate chip ones, not the vanilla. They taste like cardboard. $12 for a box of 6 bars. Jake, money's been tight lately. Could we maybe... Dad, his voice went flat. We've talked about this. The settlement money is for my care. This is my care. Unless you want me getting weaker. Thursday morning, 6:30 a.m., I stopped at Circle K after work. They were out of Red Bull. The kid behind the counter, probably 16, shrugged when I asked when they'd restock. Maybe Friday, he said. I bought Monster Energy instead. Same price, same caffeine content. Jake wouldn't even notice. I knocked on his apartment door at 7:15. No answer. Used my key, he'd given me one for emergencies. Found him in the living room, wheelchair positioned perfectly in front of his gaming setup. Coffee? I offered, holding up the 7-Eleven cup. You're late? He said without looking away from the screen. I've been awake for an hour. Sorry, had to stop for your energy drinks. I handed him the Monster Energy can. He looked at it like I'd handed him poison. This isn't Red Bull. They were out. This is the same thing, just a different dad. He set down his controller, turned to face me fully. I asked for one specific thing. Red Bull, how hard is that? Jake, it's 4 a.m. I just worked 10 hours. They were out of stock. You know what your problem is? His voice was getting louder. You don't listen. You think because you do this job, you can just half-ass everything else. Half-ass, after 15 years of giving him everything. Son, I'm not half-assing anything. I'm exhausted. I work nights so I can be here for you during the day. I moved us to this expensive complex so you could have independence. You moved us here because you felt guilty, he was shouting now. You think doing menial labor somehow makes you noble? You think being a janitor makes you a martyr? Menial labor. The job that paid for his organic food, his designer clothes, his $4,500 wheelchair. Jake, that's not fair. Fair? He laughed. Actually laughed. You want to talk about fair? Fair would be having a father who didn't ruin both our lives. Fair would be having a dad who made something of himself instead of just settling. The word hit me like a physical blow. Settling. I didn't settle. I made sacrifices. For you. No, Dad. You gave up. And now you want me to be grateful for your failure? I felt something break inside my chest. 15 years of 4-hour nights. 15 years of saying no to myself and yes to him. 15 years of putting his needs before my own health, my own future, my own happiness. Maybe, I said quietly, you could just say thank you. Once. That's when he picked up his water bottle, one of those expensive stainless steel ones, $28 from REI, and threw the entire contents at my face. Cold water hit me square in the eyes, soaked through my work shirt, dripped onto the floor of his apartment that I was paying for. There, he said. Are you happy now? Is that the reaction you wanted? I stood there, water streaming down my face, staring at my son, my 26-year-old son who I'd given everything for. Learn to listen, Dad. I asked for Red Bull, not this cheap crap. I asked for respect, not guilt trips about your choices. I wiped my face with my sleeve, looked around his apartment. The 75-inch TV, the leather sectional sofa, the kitchen island with granite countertops, all paid for with settlement money I managed for his care. You're right, I said softly. I should listen better. He turned back to his PlayStation, dismissing me. Just try harder next time, okay? I walked to his bathroom, the one with the expensive walk-in shower and heated floors, to get a towel for my face. As I reached for the towel rack, I caught something in the mirror behind me. Jake's reflection, standing up from his wheelchair to reach for something on the high shelf. Standing, completely normally. No assistance, no struggle, no pain. I froze, towel halfway to my face, watching through the mirror as my paralyzed son stood on both legs, grabbed a bag of chips from the top shelf, then sat back down in his wheelchair. 15 years. 15 years of believing he couldn't walk. I finished drying my face, hung the towel back up, and walked out of that bathroom like nothing had happened. I'll get you Red Bull tomorrow, I told him. Thanks, Dad. I knew you'd understand, but I understood something completely different now, and Jake had no idea what he'd just revealed. I drove home that Thursday morning in complete silence. No radio, no air conditioning despite the 108-degree Phoenix heat already building at 8 a.m. Just me, my thoughts, and the image burned into my brain. Jake standing up like it was the most natural thing in the world. 15 years. How long had he been able to walk? I parked outside our old apartment. I'd kept it as my legal address even after Jake moved out, and sat in that Honda Civic for 20 minutes. The steering wheel was too hot to touch. My work shirt was still damp from the water he'd thrown at me. The logical part of my brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was having a good day. Maybe his physical therapy was finally working. Maybe I'd imagined it, but I knew what I'd seen. I climbed the stairs to my apartment's second floor, because I didn't need wheelchair accessibility anymore, and opened my laptop. A 5-year-old Dell I'd bought refurbished for $200. The screen flickered when it started up, but it worked. First, I Googled partial paralysis recovery. Spent 2 hours reading medical journals, patient stories, recovery timelines. The results were clear. After 15 years with no improvement, sudden recovery was essentially impossible. Not unprecedented, but so rare it made national news when it happened. Then I Googled disability fraud investigation. The articles made my stomach turn. People faking injuries for insurance money, for settlements, for benefits. Some for months, some for years, a few for decades. The average fraudulent disability claim in Arizona was $47,000. Jake's settlement was $340,000. I made a decision that Thursday afternoon that would change everything. I was going to find out the truth, even if I didn't want to know it. First step, documentation. I drove to Best Buy and spent $149 on a nanny cam disguised as a digital picture frame. The college kid working electronics showed me how to set it up on my phone, how to view the footage remotely, how to save files to cloud storage. It's for home security, I told him. Cool. Battery lasts about 12 hours of continuous recording. You can set it to motion activated if you want longer. Friday afternoon, I drove to Jake's apartment. Used my key again. He was at physical therapy, or at least, that's where he said he was going. Session with Maria, $120 per hour, 3 times a week. I'd been paying those bills for 15 years. I placed the picture frame on his kitchen counter, angled toward the living room, plugged it into the outlet behind his coffee maker. To anyone else, it looked like a digital photo display cycling through family pictures. Then I sat in his living room for 10 minutes, just looking around, really looking. The apartment was $1,200 a month. First floor, wheelchair accessible, wide doorways. But there were things I'd never noticed before. The kitchen cabinets were standard height, not lowered for wheelchair access. The bathroom mirror wasn't positioned for someone sitting down. The closet rods were all at normal height. Small things. Things you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for them. Saturday morning, I started my research phase. I knew Jake's email password. He'd never changed it from high school. Jake Master, 2009, the year of the accident. His Gmail had over 3,000 unread messages, but I searched for specific terms. Physical therapy, medical, insurance. What I found in his sent folder made my hands shake. An email to Maria, his physical therapist, from 3 weeks ago. Hey Maria, need to reschedule Tuesday's session. Going hiking with friends. How about Thursday instead? Hiking with friends. Another email from last month to someone named Ryan. Bro, can't wait for the rock climbing trip next weekend. My dad's been super clingy lately, but I think I can shake him. Rock climbing. I scrolled back further. 6 months of emails. A year, 2 years. The evidence was overwhelming. Conversations about gym memberships, about personal trainers, about weekend camping trips, about pickup basketball games at the community center, and mixed in between, emails to insurance companies about his continued decline, requests for equipment upgrades, claims for additional therapy sessions. I opened a new document on my laptop and started making a list. Settlement original amount, $340,000. Current balance, last statement, $127,000. Time period, 15 years. Missing money, $213,000. Monthly disability payments from state, $2,100. Therapy claims, $1,440 per month for 15 years, equals $259,200. Equipment purchases, conservative estimate, $45,000. I was looking at systematic fraud, not just lying about his condition, stealing from his own settlement fund and defrauding the state disability system. But I needed more than emails. I needed video evidence. I needed proof that would stand up to scrutiny. I gave myself 2 weeks to document everything. 2 weeks to prove I was either paranoid or that my son had been lying to me for 15 years. The nanny cam would tell me which one it was. The first 3 days of surveillance nearly drove me insane. I'd check the nanny cam footage during my breaks at work, sitting in the janitor's closet at Valley Corporate Plaza, watching my phone screen with my heart pounding. Day 1. Nothing unusual. Jake in his wheelchair, watching TV, playing games. Normal disabled person activities. Day 2, same thing. I started wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing. Day 3, Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. I was mopping the 3rd floor when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the camera. It was 2:47 p.m. Jake was supposed to be at physical therapy until 4. I opened the app and watched my son stand up from his wheelchair like he'd never had an injury in his life. Not a slow, painful struggle. Not physical therapy exercises. He just stood up, stretched his arms over his head, and walked to the kitchen like any normal 26-year-old. I had to sit down on a conference room chair. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. But it got worse. Jake walked to his bedroom and came back wearing athletic shorts and running shoes. Nike Air Jordans that cost $300. I'd bought them for him 6 months ago because he said they were supportive for his physical therapy. Then he left the apartment, on foot, walking normally. The camera kept recording for 4 hours. At 6:23 p.m., Jake returned, changed back into regular clothes, and positioned himself in his wheelchair exactly where he'd been when he left. When I got home from work that night, I called him. Hey Dad, how was work? Fine. How was physical therapy today? Really tough. Maria pushed me harder than usual. I'm exhausted. Exhausted from what? His afternoon jog around the neighborhood? Day 4 brought even more evidence. The camera caught Jake doing jumping jacks in his living room. Actual jumping jacks. For 15 minutes straight. Day 5. He had a visitor. A young woman with bleached blonde hair and a Mercedes-Benz parked outside. I'd never seen her before. Through the camera's audio, I heard him introduce himself as Jake Thompson, my last name, but he told her he was an entrepreneur in the wellness space. No mention of disability, no wheelchair visible when she was there. He'd moved it to the bedroom. They danced together in his living room. Actually danced. Salsa moves. He must have learned somewhere. I love how active you are, she said. Most guys my age just want to play video games all day. I believe in staying fit, Jake replied. Mind and body connection, you know? Mind and body connection. From my paralyzed son. Day 8. The woman returned. This time I heard her name, Amber. They were planning a weekend trip to Sedona for hiking. I've been wanting to try those red rock trails forever, she said. I know some great spots. I go up there pretty regularly. Jake had been telling me for 15 years that car rides longer than 30 minutes caused him severe back pain. But the real bombshell came on day 10 when I started digging into his social media accounts. Jake had 2 Instagram profiles. The public one, he'd shown me occasionally photos of him in his wheelchair, inspirational quotes about overcoming adversity, pictures of his therapy sessions. 417 followers, mostly family and people from high school who felt sorry for him. The private account had a different username, @FitJake 2024. It had 2,847 followers. The photos made me physically sick. Jake, rock climbing at Camelback Mountain. Timestamp 3 weeks ago. Jake completing a 5K run in Tempe-Town Lake. Timestamp last month. Jake doing CrossFit workouts at a gym I'd never heard of. Multiple photos spanning 6 months. Jake at a hiking trail in Flagstaff. Caption: conquered another peak. # never give up. Push your limits. Every single photo showed a completely healthy, athletic young man. There were videos too. Jake deadlifting 185 pounds. Jake doing box jumps. Jake swimming laps at the community center pool. In one video, filmed just 2 weeks ago, he was bench pressing while someone off camera cheered him on. That's what I'm talking about, Jake. Your form is perfect. The voice belonged to someone named Marcus, according to the tagged account. Marcus was a personal trainer at Anytime Fitness. Jake had been paying him $60 per session, twice a week for 8 months. I cross-referenced the dates of these social media posts with my records of settlement withdrawals. The day he posted the rock climbing photos, I'd withdrawn $800 for emergency physical therapy equipment. The day he posted the 5K completion video, I'd withdrawn $1,200 for specialized ergonomic seating. The day he posted the CrossFit workout, I'd withdrawn $2,400 for home accessibility modifications. I was funding his athletic lifestyle while he pretended to be disabled. But the financial records revealed an even bigger betrayal. I accessed his banking information, technically legal, since I was still his financial guardian for the settlement fund. The Chase account linked to his settlement had a current balance of $127,000. Down from $340,000, $213,000 missing. I printed out 3 years of bank statements and spent an entire day categorizing every expense. Legitimate medical expenses, $31,000. Apartment rent and utilities, $47,000. Food and basic necessities, $38,000. Athletic equipment and gym memberships, $23,000. Entertainment and travel, $41,000. Designer clothing and accessories, $18,000. Amber-related expenses, $15,000. The gym membership alone was costing $89 per month. The personal trainer was $480 per month. His hiking equipment, boots, backpacks, climbing gear had cost over $3,000 in the past year. Meanwhile, I was still claiming $2,100 per month in state disability benefits on his behalf. For 15 years, That was $378,000 in fraudulent government payments. But the most painful discovery came when I found his Venmo account. Payment to Amber Lifestyle for $1,200. Note, Babe's birthday weekend in Scottsdale. Payment to Marcus Trainer for $360. Note, extra sessions for Beachbody goals. Payment to Red Rock Adventures for $580. Note, epic hiking guide for Sedona trip. Every transaction showed a healthy, active young man living his best life on money meant for disability care. The final piece of evidence came from his dating profile on Bumble, which I found linked through his Instagram. Profile description: adventure seeker who loves staying active. Rock climbing, hiking, fitness enthusiast. Looking for someone who can keep up with my energy. No couch potatoes, please. Photos showed him mountain biking, rock climbing, running marathons. Not one mention of disability. Not one photo of a wheelchair. My paralyzed son was advertising himself as a fitness enthusiast to potential girlfriends. 15 years of fraud, 15 years of lies. And I had documented proof of all of it. Now I just had to decide what to do with the truth. I spent 3 sleepless days staring at the evidence spread across my kitchen table. Bank statements, printed Instagram photos, medical records that suddenly made no sense. The weight of 15 years of deception sitting in manila folders and screenshot printouts. Part of me wanted to believe there was an explanation. Maybe he was in remission. Maybe the doctors were wrong about his prognosis. Maybe this was a miracle recovery he was afraid to tell me about. So I decided to give him one chance, one opportunity to tell me the truth before I did anything irreversible. Friday evening, I drove to his apartment. No key this time. I knocked. "Dad? What are you doing here?" Jake was in his wheelchair, controller in his lap, exactly where the nanny cam had shown him 5 minutes earlier, before he'd quickly transferred from the couch when he heard my car in the parking lot. "Can I come in?" I wanted to talk. "Sure, but I'm kind of tired." Physical therapy was brutal today. According to my research, his physical therapy appointment had been canceled. Instead, he'd spent 2 hours at the gym with Marcus. I sat on his leather sectional, $4,800 from West Elm, paid for with settlement money, and looked at my son, really looked at him. "Jake, how are you feeling?" "Honestly? Same as always. Some days are better than others." "What if I told you I've been watching you walk around this apartment?" The color drained from his face, but he recovered quickly. Jake had always been good at lying. "Dad, that's crazy. Are you feeling okay?" "I saw you stand up. I saw you walk to the kitchen like nothing was wrong. Sometimes I can stand for a few seconds. You know that. The doctors said I might have some sensation return. Gaslighting, making me question what I'd seen with my own eyes." "Jake, I have video footage." Now he looked genuinely worried. "Video? Dad, what are you talking about?" "Security camera footage of you walking, running, working out. That's impossible." His voice was getting higher, more desperate. "Dad, you're scaring me." "Have you been taking your medications?" "My medications? I wasn't on any medications." "I'm not having a breakdown, Jake. I know what I saw. Look, maybe you saw me doing my physical therapy exercises. Sometimes I can support myself for balance work, but that's not walking. I saw you dancing with your girlfriend." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. "I don't have a girlfriend, Dad. Amber, blonde hair, drives a Mercedes. You told her you're an entrepreneur." Jake's hands gripped his wheelchair armrests. "I don't know who you're talking about." "You took her hiking in Sedona last weekend." "Dad, I can't hike." "I'm in a wheelchair. You know this." The audacity was breathtaking. Even confronted with specific evidence, he was doubling down on the lie. "Jake, I'm going to give you 24 hours to tell me the truth. About everything. The walking, the girlfriend, the money you've been spending." "Truth about what?" "Dad, you're having some kind of episode. Maybe you need to see Dr. Peterson." Dr. Peterson was my old family physician. I hadn't seen him in 3 years because I couldn't afford the copays. "This isn't an episode. This is me asking my son to be honest with me for the first time in 15 years. 15 years? Dad, what are you saying? That I've been lying about being disabled? That's insane. That's..." He paused, calculated his next move. That's really hurtful, actually. The victim card. Of course. Jake, I have bank records, social media posts, video evidence. Just tell me the truth. The truth is that you're having some kind of breakdown. The truth is that I'm worried about you. Maybe the stress of taking care of me has finally gotten to you. He was good. 15 years of practice had made him very good at manipulation. You have 24 hours, I said, standing up. 24 hours to tell me everything, or I'm going to handle this my way. Handle what? Dad, there's nothing to handle except getting you some help. I walked to his door, turned back one last time. I love you, Jake, but the lies stop now. I love you too, Dad. Which is why I'm going to call Dr. Peterson tomorrow. We'll figure out what's happening with your memory. My memory. Right until the end, he was trying to make me think I was crazy. 24 hours later, Jake never called, never texted, never acknowledged my ultimatum. So I moved to phase 2. Jake's silence told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't going to confess. He was going to keep lying until the very end. Saturday morning, I drove to FedEx office and spent $47 printing everything. 3-inch binders full of evidence. Bank statements showing the $213,000 in fraudulent spending, screenshots of his social media accounts, timestamps from the nanny cam footage, medical records that contradicted his athletic activities. I organized it like a legal case, because that's what this was becoming. Section A, Financial Evidence. Every withdrawal from the settlement account cross-referenced with his real activities. The $800 emergency therapy equipment withdrawal on the same day he posted rock climbing photos. The $2,400 accessibility modifications withdrawal when he was actually buying gym equipment. Section B, Video Evidence. I'd compiled 15 hours of nanny cam footage showing Jake walking, exercising, and living a completely normal life. I burned it to 3 separate DVDs. Section C, Social Media Evidence. Printed copies of @Fit. Jake 2024's Instagram posts spanning 2 years. Photos of hiking, rock climbing, marathon running. Captions like pushing my limits and never give up. That took on a whole different meaning now. Section D, Insurance Fraud Documentation. Records of the $2,100 monthly disability payments. 15 years of payments totaling $378,000. All fraudulent. But documentation wasn't enough. I needed allies. First call, Lisa Martinez at Arizona Department of Insurance Fraud Investigation. I'd found her contact information through the state website. Miss Martinez, my name is Tommy Henderson. I need to report a disability fraud case. How can I help you, Mr. Bimond Henderson? My son has been collecting disability benefits for 15 years while living as a completely healthy adult. I have video evidence and financial records. That's a serious allegation. Can you come in next week for an interview? Actually, I was hoping you could attend a family gathering this Sunday. See the evidence firsthand. There was a pause. That's unusual, but if you have compelling evidence, we can arrange something. I gave her Jake's address and scheduled her to arrive at 3 p.m. Sunday. Second call, my brother Frank in Tucson. Tommy, haven't heard from you in months. I need you to come to Phoenix this Sunday. Family emergency. What kind of emergency? I can't explain over the phone. Just trust me. Bring Mary. Frank and his wife Mary had been sending Jake care packages for 15 years. They donated over $5,000 toward his medical equipment. They deserved to know where their money went. Third call, my cousin David. David, remember when you renovated Jake's bathroom in 2018? Spent your whole vacation installing grab bars and accessibility features? Of course. Cost me $800 in materials. How's Jake doing? Come to his apartment Sunday at 2 p.m. You'll see exactly how he's doing. Fourth call, Mrs. Patterson, our former neighbor. Tommy, how's that sweet boy of yours? Mrs. Patterson was 78 years old and had witnessed my daily struggle for 15 years. She'd watched me carry Jake to the car for appointments. She'd seen me installing wheelchair ramps. She'd brought us meals when money was tight. Mrs. Patterson, could you come to a little gathering Sunday afternoon? There's something about Jake you need to see. By Saturday night, I had my guest list confirmed. Frank and Mary, witnesses to family donations. David, witness to accessibility modifications; Mrs. Patterson, witness to 15 years of caregiving; Lisa Martinez, insurance fraud investigator; and one surprise guest I hadn't told anyone about. Sunday morning, I made one final call. "Amber? This is Tommy, Jake's dad." "Oh, hi. Jake's told me so much about you." "Interesting. What exactly had he told her?" "I'm having a little family gathering this afternoon at Jake's place. Would you like to join us?" "That sounds wonderful. I've been wanting to meet his family." "Great. 2 o'clock. I think you'll find it very educational." The final piece was the hardest. I needed to document everything that was about to happen. So I called my old coworker, Carlos, the night security guard. "Carlos, I need a favor. Could you film something for me Sunday afternoon?" "What kind of something?" "Let's call it a family intervention." By Sunday morning, everything was in place. The evidence was compiled, the witnesses were assembled, the investigator was scheduled to arrive. Jake had no idea what was coming. I spent Sunday morning at my apartment, looking at myself in the bathroom mirror, the same mirror where I'd wiped water from my face just 2 weeks earlier, the same face that looked 15 years older than it should. For 15 years, I'd been living a lie, not by choice, but because I'd trusted someone who didn't deserve it. But today, the truth was coming out. I put on my best shirt, a button-down I'd bought for Jake's high school graduation in 2015. I combed my gray hair. I looked at myself one last time. "Today," I said to my reflection, "you get your life back." Then I drove to Jake's apartment to destroy his. I arrived at Jake's apartment at 1:30 p.m., 30 minutes before anyone else. I needed to see his reaction when I told him about the gathering. He was in his wheelchair, wearing a designer polo shirt that cost more than my weekly salary. Ralph Lauren, navy blue, $120. I knew because I'd paid for it 6 months ago when he said he needed nice clothes for medical appointments. "Hey Dad, what's up? I invited some people over today." Family gathering. Jake's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, concern, then carefully controlled panic. "People? What people?" "Dad, I'm not feeling great today. Maybe we should reschedule." "Frank and Mary are driving up from Tucson." "David's coming. Mrs. Patterson. A few others." "Others?" "Dad, this is really short notice. I haven't cleaned. I don't have food prepared." I looked around his spotless apartment. The maid service he paid for weekly $180 every Friday had been there yesterday. "Don't worry about food. This isn't that kind of gathering." At exactly 2 p.m., Frank and Mary knocked on the door. "Uncle Frank!" Jake wheeled over to greet them, his whole demeanor shifting to the grateful, struggling nephew they remembered. "Aunt Mary! This is such a surprise." Mary immediately went into caretaker mode, fussing over Jake's appearance, asking about his therapy progress, complimenting how good he looked. "You seem so energetic today, honey," she said. "I'm having a good day," Jake replied, shooting me a nervous glance. Frank was looking around the apartment with obvious confusion. The 75-inch TV, the leather furniture, the granite countertops. "Nice place, Jake. This must cost a fortune." "The settlement money helps," Jake said carefully. David arrived 10 minutes later, still in his work clothes from his landscaping business. He hugged Jake, then stood back with a puzzled expression. "You know, you look really healthy, kid. Last time I saw you, you seemed so frail." "Physical therapy's been helping," Jake said, the lie rolling off his tongue effortlessly. Mrs. Patterson arrived with a casserole dish, despite my telling her not to bring food. "Tommy, this boy looks wonderful. So much better than when you two lived next door. You must be doing something right." "Actually," I said, "that's what we're here to talk about." At 2:25, there was another knock. Jake wasn't expecting anyone else. "Who's that?" he asked. I opened the door to reveal Amber, wearing designer jeans and a crop top, looking like she was ready for a photo shoot. "Hi, Mr. Henderson. Thanks for inviting me." The silence in the room was deafening. Jake's face went completely white. Frank, Mary, David, and Mrs. Patterson were all staring at this young woman who clearly had no idea she was walking into a disability fraud investigation. "Jake!" Amber walked over and leaned down to kiss his cheek. "You didn't tell me your family was so cute." "Amber," Jake's voice was barely a whisper, I thought you had plans today. I canceled them. I've been dying to meet everyone. She turned to address the room. Jake's told me so much about all of you. He's so grateful for everything you've done to support his business. Business, not disability. Business. Frank looked at me sharply. Business? Jake's wellness consulting company, Amber continued cheerfully, completely oblivious to the tension. He's been so modest about his success, but I keep telling him he should be proud of what he's built. Mary was staring at Jake with growing confusion. Wellness consulting? He's amazing, Amber gushed. We went hiking last weekend in Sedona, and he was telling me about all his fitness certifications and... Hiking? David interrupted. Amber, Jake said desperately, maybe you should... Oh, and the rock climbing. I was so impressed. Most guys can't keep up with me outdoors, but Jake's in incredible shape. Mrs. Patterson dropped her casserole dish. It hit the floor with a crash that made everyone jump. Rock climbing? She whispered. At exactly 3 p.m., there was a final knock at the door. That'll be Lisa Martinez from the Department of Insurance Fraud Investigation, I announced calmly. Jake made a sound like all the air had been knocked out of his lungs. Insurance fraud? Frank's voice was getting loud. Tommy, what the hell is going on here? Amber looked around the room in growing confusion. Wait, I thought Jake was an entrepreneur. Why is insurance fraud here? And why is everyone acting so weird? Lisa Martinez entered the room, badge visible, carrying a briefcase and a tablet. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Henderson, thank you for arranging this meeting. Mr. Jake Henderson, I presume? Jake couldn't speak. He was staring at the room full of people like a trapped animal. Before we begin, I said, pulling out my printed evidence binders, I think everyone needs to understand exactly what we're here to discuss. I looked at Jake one last time. Last chance to tell them yourself. He said nothing, so I did. I stood in the center of Jake's living room, surrounded by 15 years of witnesses to my sacrifice and his deception. The weight of 3 binders full of evidence in my hands felt like holding the truth itself. For 15 years, I began, my voice steady and calm, I believed I was caring for my disabled son. Jake was gripping his wheelchair armrest so tightly his knuckles were white. Dad, please don't. For 15 years, I worked nights as a janitor so I could be home during the day for his therapy sessions. I gave up my construction career. I sold our house. I went into debt buying medical equipment. Tommy, Frank interrupted, what are you saying? I opened the first binder and pulled out a printed screenshot from Jake's Instagram account. The photo showed him completing a marathon, arms raised in victory, caption reading, personal best time, #, never give up, #, healthy lifestyle. I'm saying my son isn't disabled. He never was, not for the past several years anyway. Amber gasped. Wait, what? Jake, you're not actually... Ma'am, Lisa Martinez stepped forward. I'm going to need you to have a seat. This is now an official fraud investigation. Jake tried one last desperate lie. This is insane. Dad's been having memory problems. He's confused. Am I confused about this? I pulled out my laptop and opened the compiled video footage. This is security camera footage from your apartment, Jake. Taken over the past 2 weeks. I hit play. The first clip showed Jake standing up from his wheelchair and walking to the kitchen like any normal person. Mary gasped. Oh my God. Or this one. The next clip showed Jake doing jumping jacks in his living room. David stood up from the couch. What the fuck, Jake? Language, Mrs. Patterson whispered, but she was staring at the screen in shock. Wait, Amber said, her voice getting shrill. Jake, you told me you were a fitness entrepreneur. You said you ran marathons and did CrossFit. You said your dad was your business manager. Business manager? Frank's voice was getting dangerous. Tommy's a janitor who's been supporting this kid for 15 years. I clicked to the next video. Jake dancing with Amber in his living room. Salsa moves, spinning her around, completely mobile. This is from last Tuesday. The same day you told me physical therapy was brutal and you were exhausted. Amber stood up abruptly. I need to leave now. Actually, Lisa Martinez said, pulling out her tablet, I need everyone to stay. This is evidence in a federal fraud case now. Jake finally found his voice. It's not what it looks like. I have good days and bad days. Sometimes I can walk a little, but Jake, I pulled out the bank statements. $340,000. That was your settlement in 2009. The current balance is $127,000. Where did the other $213,000 go? Silence. I'll tell you where it went. I started reading from the printed records. Anytime Fitness membership, $89 per month for 3 years. Personal trainer Marcus, $60 per session. Twice weekly for 8 months. Rock climbing equipment from REI, $3,400. Marathon registration fees, hiking gear, gym supplements. Frank was on his feet now. You've got to be kidding me. Designer clothes, electronics. This apartment that costs $1,200 a month. A Mercedes lease for your girlfriend. I don't have a Mercedes lease, Jake protested. You paid for Amber's car payments, I corrected. $850 per month. It's in your Venmo history. Amber's face went red. My car payments? Jake, you told me you were successful. You told me you could afford those payments. But wait, I continued, there's more. Jake's been collecting state disability benefits. $2,100 per month for 15 years. That's $378,000 in fraudulent government payments. Lisa Martinez was typing rapidly on her tablet. Mr. Henderson, these are federal charges we're looking at. Wire fraud, disability fraud, potentially RICO violations if this was coordinated. Coordinated? David asked. The fake physical therapy claims, I explained. Jake's been billing the state for therapy sessions he never attended because he was at the gym instead. Maria, his therapist, has been filing false reports for years. Mrs. Patterson was crying now. Tommy, all those years I watched you struggle. All those times I brought you groceries because I knew money was tight. And he was stealing from you. Not just from me, I said. From all of you. Frank, remember the $5,000 you donated for his wheelchair equipment? Frank's face was purple with rage. That money went to a goddamn wheelchair. That money went to a gym membership and personal training sessions. I pulled out more printed photos. David, remember spending your vacation installing grab bars and accessibility features in his bathroom? $800 of my own money, David said quietly. Jake was rock climbing that same week. Posted photos on Instagram. I showed him the printout. Caption says, conquered another peak while Dad was installing safety equipment I'll never need. He didn't actually write that, David said. No, but he might as well have. Amber was backing toward the door. I can't be here for this. Jake, you lied to me about everything. Your job, your money, your health, your family. Amber, wait. Jake tried to stand up to go after her, then realized his mistake. Complete silence as everyone watched my disabled son stand normally and take 3 steps toward his fleeing girlfriend. Sit down, Jake, Lisa Martinez commanded. You just provided visual confirmation of fraud in front of 6 witnesses. Jake collapsed back into his wheelchair, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen him stand and walk without assistance. The dating profile, I continued relentlessly, pulling out another printout. Bumble profile under the name Jake T. Description: adventure seeker who loves staying active. Rock climbing, hiking, fitness enthusiast, looking for someone who can keep up with my energy. No couch potatoes, pleasey. Frank was pacing now. 15 years, Tommy. 15 years you've been killing yourself for this kid. The insurance investigator has more details, I said, gesturing to Lisa Martinez. Mr. Jake Henderson, she began formally, you're under investigation for multiple felony charges. Disability fraud, wire fraud, theft of government benefits, and insurance fraud. The evidence, Mr. Henderson has provided shows systematic deception spanning multiple years. What does that mean? Mary asked. It means he's looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison if convicted, plus full restitution of fraudulent benefits, approximately $600,000. Jake's face had gone gray. Dad, please. We can work this out. I can pay the money back. I can... With what money? I asked. You've spent everything. The settlement's almost gone. You have no job skills because you've been pretending to be disabled instead of building a career. I'll get a job. I'll make this right. You threw water in my face 2 weeks ago because I asked for a little respect, I said quietly. You called me a failure. You said I was pathetic. You said I ruined both our lives. The room was completely silent except for Mrs. Patterson's quiet crying. But you know what the real tragedy is, Jake? You could have walked away anytime you wanted. You chose to stay in that wheelchair. You chose to lie to everyone who loved you. You chose to steal money meant for your care. I closed the evidence binders and looked at him one final time. Effective immediately, I'm terminating my guardianship of your settlement funds. The remaining money will be frozen pending the fraud investigation. I'm resigning as your caregiver, and I'm moving to Oregon next week. Dad, no. Please, you can't just abandon me. I'm not abandoning you, Jake. I'm finally letting you walk on your own, like you've been doing for years when you thought nobody was watching. Lisa Martinez was already on her phone with federal prosecutors. My son was finally going to learn what consequences felt like. 3 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Portland, Oregon, watching the rain streak down the windows. It's a small place called Stumptown, nothing fancy, but they know my name now. I come here every Tuesday morning after my shift at Morrison Construction. Yes, construction. At 61, I'm back to doing what I loved before Jake's accident. Turns out 15 years of janitorial work kept me in better shape than I thought. My foreman, Rick, says I work harder than guys half my age. Maybe because I remember what it feels like to have a purpose again. The legal proceedings moved faster than anyone expected. Jake pled guilty to avoid trial. His lawyer said the evidence was overwhelming. Federal court sentenced him to 4 years, plus full restitution of $591,000. With good behavior, he might serve 2.5 years. Amber disappeared the day of our confrontation, changed her phone number, blocked Jake on all social media. Turned out she really thought he was a successful entrepreneur. The lies went deeper than even I knew. Frank and Mary drove up to Phoenix last month to help me pack. Frank kept apologizing, saying he should have seen the signs. I told him Jake fooled everyone, including me. Mary cried when we loaded my Honda Civic, said she was proud of me for finally putting myself first. The remaining $127,000 from Jake's settlement went into a victim restitution fund. The state disability office recovered about 40% of the fraudulent payments through asset seizure. Jake's apartment, his electronics, even those $300 sneakers all sold at auction. I used part of my savings to rent a studio apartment 6 blocks from the construction site. It's small, but it's the mine. No medical equipment, no wheelchair ramps, no reminders of 15 years of lies. Last week, I did something I hadn't done since 2009. I went on a date. Her name is Linda. She's a nurse at the local hospital, and she thinks my story is inspiring. Not tragic, not sad inspiring. You chose truth over comfort, she said over dinner. That takes courage. Jake writes me letters from federal prison. I don't open them. Sometimes the greatest kindness is letting someone face the truth, even when that someone is your son, even when it costs everything you thought you knew about love. I'm 61 years old, and I'm finally learning what freedom feels like. That water he threw at me washed away 15 years of blindness. Now I can finally see clearly.